Hi there, and welcome to 8 Acre Homestead. If you guys are new, my name is Jennifer, and today I'm going to be going over my weekly reset with you. This includes my budget grocery haul, what exactly I got, how much it costs, the recipes I'm going to use for this week, and everything that I cook in my kitchen in order to get me set up for the upcoming week. I hope you stick around.
So let's go ahead and take a look at the two quick trips that I did for a grocery haul on this, and we'll kind of try to come up with what we're going to do for this week. All right, this is the grocery haul for one of the stores that we went to. It goes all the way down to about there. And then the second one was the Tyson boneless, skinless chicken breast that you see here. So first stop was here. Our local Safeway was doing a sale where you could get the boneless, skinless chicken breasts in a bag like this, and they were $5 a piece. So I picked up one, two, three, four, five of those. So it was $25 total for this. I got that because we do not yet have our meat chickens in for this year, and we are at the mercy of the grocery store for that. So we have five of those, which is $25 in that haul, in that trip. And then over here, we found our local Kroger store has a bin where they put veggies in this red netting right here. And basically, anything that's inside of this red netting, like this, means that you get the item that's inside for $1.49. And then they always have these reduced bananas as well. And if you follow my channel, you know that I use bananas quite a bit in our house, whether we use those to eat as fruit, we use them in smoothies, or make banana bread and things like that with them. We use bananas quite frequently. I think I'm going to go ahead and make a granola, a banana nut granola with that, because I have some yogurt in our freezer that I'd like to use for snack time for the kids. So I think that's what I'm going to do with some of these bananas right here. I got a bag of onions for $1.49 right here. I think I will pair those here in a little bit. Let's just go over everything that we have so far. So we got a bag of cucumbers, a bag of pomegranates, this entire bag, which to me is a lot, of these tomatoes right here for $1.49. We did get these two things of oranges. These ones are more like the mandarin oranges, and this is the full-size oranges, but both of those, again, $1.49. This entire bag of mini peppers, and then we've got all of these peppers that came in these bags as well. Again, all $1.49. We won't use all of these right away, but I will use these this week to cook with. So moving on to these are organic Granny Smith apples. There's three different bags right here that we got. They were $1.49 each. And then we got a cantaloupe right here as well. I did buy a bag. This was not on sale. This was $2.99 of this crispy rice, like Rice Krispie kind of cereal, because I did pick up these marshmallows that were on clearance for 76 cents a bag. So because it's the brand name, it's a bigger bag, and it was on clearance for 76 cents. I thought was a really good price to stock up to make some treats throughout the upcoming months until we get back into that season during the holidays, when things tend to go a little bit more on sale, because it's that time of year where everybody's baking. So I did pick up a good amount of those. And then I did pick up these Prego marinara sauces. Again, I'm at the mercy right now of that because it is not summer. We don't have our own tomatoes right now. This is something that we're going to have to stop doing because it does not sit well with my husband, but the homemade one does. So I think we're going to stop getting these fairly quickly here as well. Also, we got this Baker's sweetened coconut right here. Again, I thought I would make some treats out of it. It was on clearance for $1.58, which isn't like, oh, super great stock up price, but my daughter, one of my daughters, and my husband both like coconut quite a bit. So I don't buy it too often because not everybody in the household likes it, but I do like to make some treats here and there for them to enjoy. So I think I'm going to make something with that, or we can possibly do some like coconut shrimp or something with that one there. We do have some shrimp in the freezer, so I might use one of these to do that with. All right, so let's talk about just things that pop up off the top of my head, looking at what we have right here and what I plan to do with it. Again, I'm going to take some of these marshmallows along with the Rice Krispie treat or Rice Krispies, and we're going to make Rice Krispie treats of some variety, whether they have something in them or not. We'll do that for a treat this week. Some of the fruits that the kids can choose from are going to be the oranges, the bananas. These I'm not sure if I'm going to use for the kids as fruits because I think I might use these. We are down to our last jar of our homemade apple pie filling. So I think I'm going to use these to kind of restock up on that, because we like to use that not only in apple pies, but we like to use it on things like oatmeal and so forth in our house. So I might be using that for that. It depends on how I do with time. They might be used as fruit to eat, or they might be used to make the apple pie filling with. Again, we have the onions, we have the tomatoes, and we have a ton of different kinds of peppers right there. Along with the chicken, I'm seeing some kind of fajita theme going on for sure there. And then as well as these peppers, I will save some to do stuffed peppers with. And I'll stuff them with probably a ground meat and maybe a rice combination with some cheese on top of that. So we'll probably end up doing that with those. Here I have 2 English cucumbers and then 2 regular cucumbers, but again, these were the organic ones, so I was happy with that, because I feel like I pay that just for one of these, and I was able to get all of them for $1.49, so that wasn't a bad deal. And I like to do a kind of like a pickled cucumber, but not pickled as in like dill pickle, but more like vinegar and sugar mixture that I like to do and keep them in the fridge, and then you can just munch on them freely. And I really enjoy those. I really like those. So I'll try to show you guys how we do that as well. Otherwise, these ones right here will be used for snacks. I have the mix for the ranch dip, so sour cream and the ranch seasoning that I believe I have shown on my channel as well on how I make that and store that. I will mix those two together, and the kids can do these along with carrots and so forth in that dip. Or I also have some cream cheese that we can mix up and do like a stuffed pepper kind of a deal. I know we have some spinach left over, so we might add that to this as well. Or my kids just like to eat them just like this. They really do enjoy those ones. There were some pomegranates here as well. This is going to be a snack or fruit too. My daughter was with me, so she was the one who chose this one right here. One of my daughters was with me and chose that. Otherwise, this is what we have gotten so far. The total so far for this one was 49 and some change. So everything here was $49 and like 12 cents. And then this right here was $25. So if I round up and I say this was $50, and then I take these guys right here and say that that was another 25, so that's $75 total for everything that you see here. And that will absolutely help us get through the week once I sit down and fill in any gaps and come up with the remainder of the plan for this week. I will keep you guys posted. I did have to make one last trip into a nearby town. And while I was out and I made that stop, the store that I went to had some produce that I went ahead and grabbed because it was a great deal. So I wanted to be sure to show you what that was to add to my previous grocery haul. This right here is what I ended up grabbing really quickly at that store because this was a great deal. These berries, all right here, these are blackberries. I snacked on these on the way home, but those are blackberries. These are raspberries. It was a total of 5. They were $1.67 a piece, which is a great deal. I went ahead and grabbed some more asparagus because we ate the last asparagus that we had, and these were $1.49 a pound, so a good deal on those. I grabbed some carrots, some celery, a little bit more spinach because I looked in the fridge and we were almost out of spinach, so I grabbed some more of that. And then I grabbed the soda crackers here for myself. So the total on this trip right here came out to about $23. So if I combine that with the previous grocery hauls that I did, which was a total of about $75, we're looking at just under $100 for this week, which I don't really consider that bad for a week's worth of groceries. We're just under $100. I'm going to utilize what I have here to fill things in. Now, if you remember and you followed my previous video of my previous week's grocery haul, you'll note on that video that I didn't do much as far as proteins, and I explained in that video why we try to get large bulks of protein at a time. So I didn't buy on that previous one. However, on this one, I did spend some money on some protein. You saw previously that I bought the 5 bags of boneless, skinless chicken breasts, spent a total of $25 on that, and that was able to stock us up for more than just this week. So again, a total of less than $100 for this week's groceries. I will pop over and show you what I came up with for our meal plan. If you watched my previous video, you saw that I use my iPad to jot down notes when I'm thinking of ideas making my weekly meal plan. And so This is what I've come up with for this week. I'm going to start with breakfast. I'm going to do some egg bites to use up those peppers, the onions, and I will probably do a protein of some sort. So probably some sausage or something in there along with some cheese. I'll make some breakfast egg bites and then some pumpkin bread. I still have pumpkin bread on the counter. And then I also have one in the freezer that I made previously. So I'll pull that out and that's what we'll have for breakfast. I will skip making a bread this week just because we still have some in the freezer. Usually I do like a banana bread or a pumpkin bread or something along those lines, but I'm going to skip that this week. For dinners, I have lasagna listed right here because I had that on last week's menu, but we ended up not making that. And so I'm going to move it over to this week. You guys saw that I had the ingredients for fajitas, so I'm going to go ahead and add fajitas onto there. We're going to do those stuffed peppers. And with that, I want to do either a large salad or throw some kind of veggies along in that. To use up that coconut that you saw on my grocery haul, I'm going to do some coconut shrimp with some shrimp that I have in the freezer. And then I'm going to make some coconut rice to go along with that. I'd like to pair these with some kind of a sauce so that I can drizzle a sauce both on the rice and put on the side for the coconut shrimp. I just haven't decided which one that's going to be just yet. For snacks, I have frozen yogurt in the refrigerator. So it's the Light and Fit brand is what I have in there. I got it on a previous sale, so I stocked up on it. It's in my freezer. I will pull that out for the kids to use this week. I think they're peach flavored and vanilla flavored. And then I'm going to make some homemade granola to go with that. I did want to use those little mini peppers that you saw in there. They were only $1.49, which is a great deal. So I do still have some shredded chicken in the freezer that I had made previously. So I'm going to take that shredded chicken and I'm going to make some buffalo chicken with that. And then I'm going to stuff the peppers with that. I'll go ahead and probably make those ahead of time and then just keep them in the fridge or freezer so the kids can make them when they get home. Most likely they'll just stay in the fridge because those will go pretty quickly. For fruit, I have cantaloupe, oranges, bananas. You saw the berries that I picked up. I have blackberries and raspberries. And then we always have canned fruit, of course. And then we also have those cucumbers that I'm going to put in some vinegar, sugar vinegar kind of combination that I like to snack on myself. For treats this week, I'm going to do some Rice Krispie treats as well as chocolate zucchini muffins because I do have some zucchini in my fridge that need to be used up. So I want to go ahead and do that. And then I need to make the fajita seasoning. I just put a note there and then I also doubled it down here. So I need to make the fajita seasoning for the fajitas that we're going to do. This looks like a list that just maybe got added underneath here, which shouldn't be there. So I'll just need to delete that. And then my list of things to do is I need to make some white bread. I need to do the fajita seasoning. I need to do the granola. And then I'm just going to mark on here. Whoops. I also need to do the cucumbers. So let me note that here. Cucumbers. It's hard to write and have this in my hand at the same time. So, and cumbers. You know what that's supposed to mean. I need to do the cucumbers, so I'll put that on there. Other than that, that's my meal plan for this week. If you see under our dinners, I only have 4 listed here. I need to make sure I do a clean out the fridge night, and this is like a leftover night for us to make sure that we're utilizing everything that's in the fridge and I don't end up tossing anything out. All right, we have popped over to the next day, which is fine. Sometimes that happens. And I'm just going to go ahead and get started on my list. So I'm going to flip you around. We're going to take a look at the list and we're going to see what we're going to start on first. We look really quickly. As a reminder, we had the egg bites for breakfast. We have some dinner options, some snack options, some treats, and a to-do list that I have down here. So on my to-do list down on the bottom, the first thing that I have is I need to bake bread. And the reason why I'm choosing to do that first is because the bread is what takes the longest. However, my bread machine right here, along with the scraps that needs to go out to the chickens, my bread machine right here is what's going to do all the work for me. So I'm really just going to put the ingredients in and it's going to do everything else for me. And the bread will be ready later on today. All right, to get started on this, we're going to go ahead and get 1¼ cups of water. This is a recipe that came with my bread maker. I just played around with which one I kind of liked better. And we just picked one, made a little bit of alterations to it, and just kind of went from there. So we're going to start with that 1¼ cup of water. And then I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons, if I can get the lid off of my milk here, about 2 tablespoons of milk. So I'm going to add 1, and that's probably about 2. I don't measure anymore. just kind of eyeball it. If you feel more comfortable using measuring spoons for that, by all means, go ahead. It's not going to hurt anything if you put a little bit more or a little bit less. So I'm okay with that. So once the wet ingredients are down inside there, then we're going to go ahead and start adding some dry ingredients. So we're going to do about 4¼ cup of flour that we're going to add to that. This one. Again, we want to make sure that our wet ingredients are down on the bottom and the dry ingredients are up on the top. And then because salt can sometimes affect the yeast, I kind of like to put that one down kind of mixed in. So I'm just going to make some space with my hand here. We're going to do 2 teaspoons of salt. So I'll just go ahead and put that kind of one. We'll put some over here. That's 1. And that's 2. Cover that one back up. Kind of keep that salt over to the side so that we're not mixing or incorporating our yeast and that together. Sugar's fine. Sugar actually will help feed the yeast, but we want to make sure that we're not incorporating the salt in there. So we're going to go ahead and put 4 tablespoons of sugar. 3, 4. Again, I'm using rough measurements with my spoon here, just kind of dipping it in. It's okay if it's a little bit more, a little bit less, you're fine. So we've got our water, our flour, our sugar. We've got the milk in there, the salt. We need to put 2½ teaspoons of butter in there. So we'll put about a pat over on one side, a pat on the other side, and about half of one in there as well. And then we're going to go ahead and throw our yeast right on top, which is 2½ teaspoons of yeast. And again, I have a ½ teaspoon here, so you're going to see me do more than that on here. 3 and 4, that's 2, and there we go, half. And that's pretty much it. It's going to go into the bread maker. The bread's going to do the rest of it for me. I don't have to worry about it anymore until the bread is done. Close that up. It's inside there. We're just going to get that started. We're going to select a course. It is on both a basic and a regular. We're going to start it, and that bread machine is just going to do the rest of it for me. All right, moving on my list. I'm looking down here and I'm like, clearly my to-do list is not complete based off of everything that we have here, but that's okay. We're just going to keep moving forward and keep doing the things that we need to do. So next, I'm going to move on to our fajita seasoning that we need to get started. All right, let's move on to making our fajita seasoning. I'm using this little container right here that I got from Hobby Lobby. I keep a lot of my seasonings in these types of containers. I have just started with ½ cup of cornstarch inside of there. That's what you're seeing inside. And the person that I've gotten this recipe, or the account that I got this recipe from, I will try to link it down in the description box. But I have used this resource in the past for other dry mixes, and I really like their stuff. So I will see if I can include that in the description box. So let's go ahead and move on. We're going to do chili powder next. All right, we're going to throw in 1/3 cup of chili powder, and we're going to do 3 tablespoons of paprika. And since I went a little over on the previous 2, we won't go as much on that one. So we've got 3 tablespoons of paprika. Moving on to 3 tablespoons of salt. And 3, might have been a little bit more than 3, but that's okay. And then we'll do 2 tablespoons of garlic powder. 2 tablespoons of garlic powder, and we'll do the same for the onion powder. I need to run and grab my sugar because we're going to need to do 2 tablespoons of sugar. 2 tablespoons of cumin, 1 tablespoon of cayenne pepper. Now that everything's all inside of there, we're just going to put the lid on it, and I'm going to give it a good shake, shake, shake to make sure that everything gets mixed up and incorporated. I will put a label right here on mine to note that it is fajita seasoning. And this is what it should look like when it is all done and complete. All right, let's pop over to our next two recipes. I'm going to start with the granola because the granola is going to take some time to cook in the oven. And so I've preheated the oven to 350 degrees. I'm going to get going on the recipe for the granola, and then we're going to pop over and do the Rice Krispie treats while the granola is in the oven, because that'll give us enough time to go ahead and get those Rice Krispie treats that we're going to use for kind of a dessert for the week, a treat for the week. We'll be able to get that done before the granola is finished. So let's get started on that. All right, let's get started with our dry ingredients first. I'm going to start by putting 3 cups of old-fashioned oats or rolled oats into a bowl. And to the 3 cups of oats, I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of sugar. Now, I've used this recipe for many, many years, and my kids absolutely love it. It's very versatile in the fact that you can make some adjustments and make some changes based off of your taste preferences. So I really like that. I cannot claim credit for this one, so I will try to link down in the description box below who this belongs to and where I got it from. But like I said, you can make adjustments however you see fit. So next we're going to do half of a teaspoon of salt. Add that in there. And then we're going to do half of a tablespoon of cinnamon. Now, we like cinnamon in our household quite a bit, actually. So it's really okay if you go over that, in my opinion. But some people are sensitive to it. So if it's not something that you care for too much, you can decrease it. And if you like it, add a little bit more. This recipe does call for flaxseed, so if you do want to throw flaxseed, go ahead and throw that in there. I'm going to keep that out personally for this time, just because we've used it both in the past with and without. I don't have a preference on either one, but my flaxseed has been sitting for quite some time in my pantry, so I can't necessarily trust that it's still okay. So I need to replace that, so I'm going to keep the flaxseed out for now. And then we're going to move on over to our wet ingredients. So now that this has had a chance to kind of put all the ingredients in a bowl, we're going to just mix all of those ingredients up. Just mix them all together like so. And we're going to move on over to our wet ingredients. And once those wet ingredients are done, we will then add that to these dry ingredients, and it will be ready to put into the oven. So we're starting with a 1/4 cup of coconut oil, making sure that melts on a low setting. And then to that, we're going to add about 1/3 of a cup of maple syrup, about a teaspoon of vanilla extract, and then half of a cup of mashed banana, which usually comes out to about 1 medium banana. I had small banana, so I did 1 1/2. It does not have to be precise in any way, shape, or form. It just depends on whether you like the taste of banana or not. You don't even have to put it in at all if you don't want to. And then we're just going to make sure that this all gets stirred together. Once this has all been stirred together, I'm going to turn the heat off, and then we're just going to go add this to our dry ingredients. It's making sure we get everything in there. And then just stir it up. Make sure everything gets nice and mixed up, nice and incorporated. Once we're done with this, we're going to go ahead and transfer it on over to a baking sheet. And this is where you're really going to start to understand the aroma and the flavor that this is going to have to it once you put it into the oven and get it to that more granola-like consistency. At this point already, it smells so good. It smells almost like an oatmeal cookie. It's got that sweetness to it. It has that banana smell to it. It has that cinnamon smell to it. It just smells delicious. And we're just going to dump this whole thing directly onto a baking sheet. It will go in a 350-degree oven. We're going to try to get it into as much of a single layer as possible. I find it very hard not to steal bites of this as it's cooking because it really just smells so delicious and so good. Like I said, I've been using this recipe for years in our house. My kids absolutely love it. I absolutely love it. It goes great not only in things like yogurt for a snack, but we also use it in like steel cut oats or regular oatmeal. We use it in that as well. Okay, now we're just going to take this and we're going to toss it into the oven. And we're going to let that cook for about 25 minutes. Now, if you're the kind of person that likes your oatmeal more, or your oatmeal, if you're the kind of person that likes your granola more on the clumpier side, then you can just go ahead and leave it. Just watch it and make sure it doesn't burn, it doesn't brown. It does turn very quickly once it gets to that browning point, so you do want to keep an eye on it. It can range anywhere from 23 to 28 minutes according to the recipe, but I usually keep it in about 25 minutes or so. And then if you like yours a little bit more crumbly, then you're going to want to mix it about halfway through to make sure that it's breaking up. But boy, does it come out delicious. Boy, does it come out smelling so good. And I think that if you choose to make this recipe in your household, you're going to absolutely enjoy it. Side note, I did take out some pecans to throw in there. But I'm thinking because I have banana bread this week that we're pulling out that has almonds in it already, I think I'm going to hold off on these. But if you do want to add some nuts, you can. Pecans are great. That's what the recipe calls for. But I've also put in there walnuts. I've also put in there almonds. And I've also done it just plain the way we did it today. And it tastes fantastic just the same. We're moving on to our Rice Krispie treats now. If you're anything like I am and have had kids for some time, this probably isn't going to be the first time that you've made Rice Krispie treats. I have made Rice Krispie treats, I don't even know how many times. And so sometimes when I go to look for making something that is, for lack of a better word, redundant, I sometimes look to see if there's a variation that might be a little bit different, that might give it a new twist or a different taste, or just kind of put it in just a different kind of category than what we would normally have. So for this one in particular, what I'm going to try that I've seen in a couple of different posts before online is that when making the Rice Krispie treats, if you brown the butter and the marshmallows both, that it kind of elevates the flavor of the Rice Krispie treat. So I'm going to try that and see how it goes. It is the first time I will be trying that, so we'll give it a shot and see. The way that I'm going to start by doing that is I'm going to put in 2 sticks of butter, which comes out to 1 cup. This is by no means a healthy recipe or a healthy version of a recipe. So if that's what you're looking for, you might want to skip over this part. But if this is something that you've had before, you're looking to have again, this might be a different way to kind of change it up a little bit. Now, the way that that's going to work is we put the butter in, it starts to melt. It has this yellowy, consistency to it and color to it, but it will start to become clear the more that it heats up. And it's my understanding that it does that clearing process and it starts to brown a little bit after that as well. And that's what we're looking for before we add our marshmallows to that. And you can tell that this is looking clear now, but it does have that foaming going on as well. We'll just keep letting it go. Okay, I think we've got that foam down and you can see it's a nice brown color in there. So I'm going to go ahead and add 2 packages of mini marshmallows into that. I feel like this has had enough time to cook down and simmer. It's got a light brown color to it. It's not that typical white color of a Rice Krispie treat marshmallow would have. And I did give it a little bit of a finger taste and it tastes really, really good. So we're going to go ahead and throw in the Rice Krispie treats, or the Rice Krispies. The entire box, it's a 12-ounce box. And we're going to just go ahead and mix that all together and turn the heat off. We're going to remove that from the heat and we're just going to keep mixing. I do have over here a baking dish that has been greased with some butter. So once I'm done mixing all of this in, we're going to go ahead and transfer it to the baking dish, squish it down a bit, and that will be our Rice Krispie treats. Okay, I've had a chance to mix all that up together, so I'm just going to go ahead and dump that all into this container, hopefully without spilling anything. Ta-da! And then we're just going to flatten that down as much as possible, compact it so that that will make some nice Rice Krispie treats. Now these are going to come out quite thick, so I probably won't cut them super big. And I think those are all set and ready to go. They're all done. We're just going to peek at our granola and see if that is at the consistency that we like. I would not recommend touching it with your fingers like I'm doing so right here, but I've done this for so many years and for so long that it gives me an idea of what I'm looking for. I'm going to put that in for about another 2 to 3 minutes and let it just get a little bit crispier. I could stop it at this point, but I do like mine to be a little bit crunchier than that. So, all right, we've taken the granola out of the oven. This is what it will look like once you take it out. If you have just plain granola, I'm going to continue to just let this sit out up on the stove here, and it's just going to dry out even more. We want all that moisture to be gone before we put it in a container. Our bread machine has beeped at us, letting us know that it's all set. So let's go over there and check it out. All right, I can feel the warmth on there for sure, but this is what it looks like once the bread is all done and finished. It looks just like this. I will take that out of this. It's just a little warm right now. I want to wait until these things right here cool down. I'll pull it out and then we will take the bread out of the actual cooking pan here and you'll be able to see what it looks like as a whole loaf. This is what the loaf looks like when it comes out of the bread machine. And this is what we'll use for our white bread or sandwich bread throughout the week. Since we have that oven already on at 350, let's go ahead and jump into those zucchini or chocolate zucchini muffins. All right, so I'm going to start with 1.5 cups of sugar. And I'm going to put this 1.5 cups of sugar into my mixing bowl because I'm going to be mixing this with the other wet ingredients to get that started. Now, this isn't a recipe that I've used before, so I will try to link that recipe down at the description box, and we'll see how this one turns out. But I did have some zucchini that was in my fridge that I needed to use up, along with some yellow squash. So I think I'm going to use what I can of the zucchini. I just went ahead and shredded it. I'm going to use that in this recipe, and then whatever's left on the zucchini and whatever's left with the yellow squash, I'm just going to go ahead and put into the dehydrator, dehydrate it, and use it for later. So we've got 1.5 cups of that regular sugar, and then we're going to do 1/2 cup of the light brown sugar. And then to that, we're going to add 1 cup of oil, which I'm not a super big fan of adding oils to here. Sometimes I substitute them with applesauce or sour cream or a different form other than the oil. But I thought since this was the first time I'm using this one, we'll go ahead and give it a try and see how that pans out. So now that we've done that, we're going to add 3 eggs. If I don't drop them here, we're going to add 3 eggs into the mixture. So again, it's 1.5 cups of regular sugar, 1/2 cup of brown sugar. I'm going to go ahead and put these eggs, 3 of them in there, and then we'll move on to adding some vanilla as well. I'm going to go with 2 teaspoons of vanilla. It's about 1. That was a little bit more than 1 actually, but I like vanilla, so that's okay. All Right, now while that's over here in the stand mixer, let's go ahead and get that put in there, and I will add the beater to that. I'm going to go ahead and get this started, and while that's going, I'm going to add the dry ingredients into a bowl and get those mixed up. It may be hard to hear me over the mixer, but I'm adding 2.5 cups of flour right now into the bowl. I'm going to add 1/2 cup of unsweetened cocoa powder. I'll do a teaspoon of salt. I probably should have gotten a bigger bowl here. We'll do a teaspoon of baking soda. And then we're also going to do a teaspoon of cinnamon. I love cinnamon, so I will put cinnamon in any recipe that calls for it. And then I'm just going to grab a spoon and try to mix that up as best as I can inside that tiny little bowl that I decided to use here. So to this mixture, I'm just going to go ahead and start adding in the dry ingredients. And now that that's had a chance to kind of mix up, I'm going to add in the zucchini. Now I did 2 cups of zucchini, but this recipe does say that zucchini is typically pretty wet. So most of the time when you do a recipe with zucchini, you have to strain the zucchini, kind of squeeze the water out. But in this particular recipe, it actually mentions keeping some of the moisture in there. So they just want you to lightly drain it. So I'm guessing it needs that moisture in there. So we're going to go ahead and fold that in. It is a thick batter, I will tell you what. I'm going to go ahead and add about 1 cup of chocolate chips to that. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use a scoop to add to each one of the slots on my muffin tin. Okay, we're going to go ahead and throw these guys right into the oven. It doesn't look like it made a full 12. I'm missing 2 on this tray, but that's okay. We'll go ahead and get those into the oven and see how they turn out. While those muffins are in the oven, we're going to go ahead and get started on the cucumbers that we need to do. I've basically just taken 3 cucumbers and I have peeled them, loosely peeled them. And now I'm just going to start by cutting up and slicing some cucumbers. We're going to put those cucumbers into this container right here, and then we'll move on to the next step. All right, the cucumbers are all sliced up, and I'm going to move on to basically the liquid that goes inside here. And this is one of my favorite recipes that I have, again, been using for years because it is so easy. The ingredients are super simple. And once this sits in the refrigerator for a few hours, typically overnight or until the next day, it's just full of flavor. I don't like pickles. I'm not a pickled person. I don't like things that are pickled, but I do like this. It's a different taste than a pickle to me, completely different. So it's more like a cucumber salad than it is anything else. So anyways, we're going to go ahead and add 1/2 cup of water, and then we're going to do 1 cup of vinegar. Again, this is a recipe that I've been using for years. I found it years ago online. I will try to link that down below in the description box so that you have that available for you should you choose to try it yourself. This is 1 cup of vinegar, so 1/2 cup of water, 1 cup of vinegar. We're going to do some dill in there. It's typically about a tablespoon. I'm just going to go ahead and measure. I like dill quite a bit, so I feel like I can't add too much. I'm going to add a little bit more just because I like dill a lot. So we've got the cucumbers, we've got the vinegar, the water, and then we're going to do 3/4 of a cup of sugar is what we're going to add to this. Now, the recipe calls for 4 cucumbers, so there's going to be an excess in this particular recipe for me. There's going to be an excess of liquid in there, and that's okay. I'm all right with that. I just decided to go ahead and follow through with the recipe because that English cucumber that you saw in there was 2 regulars and one, oops, almost did a full cup there, and 1 English cucumber in there. So I figured that's probably good enough. Just get a little bit more. We're going to throw some sugar in there. That's 3/4 of a cup of sugar. I figured that would be enough of the cucumbers for me. So I'm fine with there being excess. And if we want to, we can always add something else to the brine. That's fine. And then let's get something to stir that with. And then I'm just going to stir this all up together. And then this isn't something that you want to eat right away. This is something that you need to let actually sit in the refrigerator for a while. So, I mean, I'm going to say minimum an hour. It's best if you let it sit for longer than that. I would even venture to say the next day. If you do it later in the evening, do overnight, and then you can have it the next day. But it tastes delicious to me. Again, I am not a pickle person. I've never liked pickles. I don't like things that are pickled, which is a shame because, you know, we can a lot here on our homestead. We can a lot. But I don't really like pickled things. So it sounds like our muffins are almost done. That's a heads up timer for me to let me know to check on them and make sure that they're getting to the point to be taken out of the oven. So now that those are nice and mixed up, just going to add a lid onto that and then into the refrigerator it will go. I will enjoy those later. While those muffins were finishing up baking, I decided to go ahead and take those tomatoes and those onions that I had and make a fresh pico de gallo salsa with it. And the reason why I did that is because I knew we were going to have fajitas later on. And I figured this would be great to add to that and a good way to use up those tomatoes and those onions. And then whatever we don't use for those fajitas, I know my family will munch on this with some tortilla chips. So I know it won't go to waste, but it was a good way to use those up. Pretty much the only thing that's in here is those tomatoes, some onions, some cilantro, some lime juice, and some salt and pepper. Very basic ingredients, but very flavorful to add to dishes. You know what I'm realizing right now that I didn't think about when I came up with my menu planning for this week? I decided to do the breakfast egg bites, and then I also decided to do these chocolate zucchini muffins, which means that when I made my chocolate zucchini muffins, my trays are going to be used. And I don't want to have to try to hurry up, take those out, wash them all out in order to use for breakfast egg bites. So I think instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the same ingredients. I'm going to use the onions. I'm going to use the peppers. I'm going to put some potatoes in there as well, cheese, eggs, all of that. But instead, I think I'm just going to do a casserole so that it's easier for me or easier on me, and I don't have to try to hurry up and wash and then get the breakfast stuff going. So here's a look at what the chocolate zucchini muffins look like when they came out of the oven. Once they cool down enough, I will go ahead and pop them out. And this is what we will use for this week for a treat. I have my veggies all chopped up right here. I do have some potatoes that I'm going to throw at the bottom of my pan. And then I do have our sausage cooking up right now. When this sausage is done, I will cook up the veggies and put it all together. We will scramble up some eggs. And I do have my baking dish right here all set and ready to go. It's greased and ready to go into the oven. Okay, I've got a dozen eggs in there. I'm going to throw in a little bit of milk to go along with that. And then we're going to get that scrambled up, add some salt and pepper, and that will be ready to go. All right, we're starting with a layer of potatoes. Next, I'm adding on my sausage and veggie combination. And then lastly, I pour on the egg mixture right on top. And then I'm going to go ahead and put this into a 350-degree oven. And I would leave it in there for approximately Oh, depending on your oven, about 45 minutes to an hour. And then about 5 minutes prior to it needing to come out, I will throw some cheese right on the top.
Let's get moving on to our mini peppers and see what we can do with those. These are the ingredients that I'm going to be using. This is my shredded chicken, cream cheese, the peppers, of course, some sour cream, my ranch seasoning mix, and then some Frank's hot sauce or red hot sauce. But this is the wing variety that I'm using. It's what we had. I wasn't going to go buy anything new, so we're going to go ahead and work with what we have. Into my stand mixer bowl, I'm going to throw in my shredded chicken, my block of cream cheese. I'm going to throw in a couple of tablespoons of my ranch seasoning mix. I'm going to do some sour cream. I don't usually measure it out, but if I had to take a guess, I would say it was about a cup of sour cream. And then I'm just going to throw some of that hot sauce in there or the buffalo sauce in there. And I'm going to let my stand mixer do the work for me. I'll start by cutting my peppers in half and taking out the seeds. I'll add the chicken filling to it, put them in a container, line them with parchment paper until they're in rows, and then they will be all set and ready to go in the fridge. Our breakfast casserole looks like this once it's done. I did opt to not put the cheese on it, and that was just a personal preference.
Okay, let's do a quick recap on what we prepped for this week. For breakfast, we opted for this sausage and veggie bake. We're going to pair that with a banana bread, and that will be a breakfast option for anybody that wants to have it. Moving on to snacks, we did some homemade granola to go with the yogurt that we had in our freezer from a previous grocery haul. We did make some cucumbers together, and then we made some stuffed buffalo chicken peppers that are about 3 layers deep on that one. This is what we'll work on for snack this week, as well as some fruit. We had some cantaloupe, some bananas, and some oranges that you saw in our grocery haul. For treats this week, we made the chocolate zucchini muffins. We did the brown butter Rice Krispie treats. And then this is just the white loaf of bread that I make every week in case anybody wants to do sandwiches, have toast, use bread for whatever reason that they would use bread on a regular weekly basis. We just go ahead and do ours in the bread maker. You saw us do that. And then for dinners, we did go ahead and prep the fajita seasoning together. I did yesterday, I went ahead and cut up some of the peppers and some of the onions, and I just put them in a container in the refrigerator so they're all sliced and ready to go whenever I do make the fajitas later on this week. But as far as the rest of the meals are concerned, I'll just kind of take note and try to get that on video for you guys and post it at a later date. But you were able to see how I prep for the week, what I did for my budget grocery haul, and we threw some recipes in there for you as well. So hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. If so, I'd appreciate it if you like it. Subscribe to the page if you can, and otherwise we'll see you next time.